Hey everyone, my name is Ingrid and this is Ingrid Reads a Lot. For today's video, I want to do the mid-year freakout tag, mid-year reading tag, because I love this tag. Like, I love watching other people's mid-year tags and I want to do it. I was thinking about not doing this tag because I didn't read a lot in the beginning of the year, but I said, if you want to do the tag, do the tag. So here I am. But I will go through the questions with you guys, and then if there are some questions that I don't have an answer to, I'll just let you know. But yeah, I'm excited to do this. I'm looking at my phone to look at the questions, so if I look down at some point, that's why. All right, let's get started. The first question is best book you've read so far this year. I am going to say I have two answers for this, and the first one is How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. This is a horror, but very much Grady Hendrix fashion, where he writes horror books, but there's always some sort of human question. I guess that is what I'm trying to say. There's always a lot of like social commentary, and in this book it's not so much social, it's more personal, in the sense that the main character is dealing with grief. It talks a lot about grief. The main character is dealing with a brother that she is not close to, and they both have to sort of come together and figure out what to do with their parents' belongings in this house after their parents have passed away. And that's the beginning of this book. But it turns out that there is a lot of dolls and puppets in this book, and I'm just gonna leave it at that, knowing that it's a horror. But if that kind of intrigues you, which it intrigued me, you'll love this book. I thought that this was one of his more like scary books. I don't know if it's because of the puppets, but his other books like don't really, like, so far that I've read, didn't really scare me. This one gave me a little bit of like, it's midnight, maybe I should stop reading this and go to sleep. But it's very, very good. And then another book I wanted to talk about for this question is The Last One Left by Riley Sager. I just finished that, so maybe that's cheating, although I'm answering the questions halfway to this date, which I think we're July 13th today. And I absolutely adore this book. This is a thriller. It's about Kit, who is a home health aide that has to go because of circumstances. Has to work in a lady's house that was accused of killing her entire family in 1929. This person is like notorious in this town for this, and she's sort of scared, like everybody's scared of this lady, and she has to go take care of her. And you follow Kit through her journey of figuring out what happened in that dreadful night. I also love, I'm not gonna do a full review of this book. Anyway, if that sounds interesting, go read it. It's very good. Question number 2 is the best sequel you've read so far this year. And this is a random question, but, well, the question is not random. My answer is random. I read the whole series, the whole Cruel Prince series in the beginning of this year, which I had never finished before. I read The Cruel Prince once a couple years ago, and I never kept going with the series. And so I decided that I was going to, because I like Faye, and I don't know, for some reason I needed like a little bit of a pick-me-up. I think I read this in like February. So I read The Wicked King and then following The Queen of Nothing. I really enjoyed this sequel. I think the sequel is really well done. There's not much I can say about the sequel without spoiling anything, but I will say that Jude is a human that lives in Fae world, and Carden is her love interest, and it's enemies to lovers. And Carden is a prince of this world, and basically Jude has had to grow up and sort of fend for herself in this very cunning and toxic world that she lives in, and has sort of had to stand up for herself because her and her sister are the only humans that live in this world. And I think Jude is a very good main character. She is a type of character that I adore in a fantasy novel, where she's powerful, and not in the sense of that she carries power, but that her actions make her powerful. And I really enjoyed this. Question number 3 is new releases you haven't read yet but want to. Okay, I have one for this, and it's random, but whatever. It's called Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. John, and this is, I think, a dystopian novel that kind of spams a very long trek of time and space. It starts out, I think, on Earth years ago, but then it ends up somewhere in the moon 300 years after. I'm curious about that. I've heard that Emily St. John's books are very good. I think her other very popular book is Station 11, which I've heard people that I know and follow and love really like that book. but this one sort of piqued my interest because of the different time in setting. So I think I want to pick this up. I saw it in my library, so I think I'm gonna reserve it and pick it up and see if I enjoy it. Let me see if I can think of another one that has come out that I haven't read yet and I want to. I'm just gonna say that one. And then the next question is most anticipated release for the second half of the year. Let me look up some anticipated releases, because what I do is I tend to see, like, I'll be flipping through Goodreads or whatever, and if I see that a book is coming out in the following months, I'll put it on my want to read list, even if I don't own it, because then when it comes out and I'm going through my list, I know things that are coming out that I'm interested in. So I'm gonna pull that up now. Please hold. Okay, there's one that I really, really want to read, which is Silver Nitrate by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. This is her new horror novel. It has to do with a haunted film and a Nazi cult. That's the extent of my knowledge. I'm excited to read this. The premise really speaks to me. There was a show that I watched recently that had to do with a haunted film and a cult, and I really, really enjoyed the show. I cannot for the life of me remember the name of the show, but if I find, I'm gonna have to look it up on Netflix, but I'll put it on the screen if you guys are curious. And I'm curious to see if the show and the book will be similar in any way because of the very similar premise. But yeah, that's one I want to read. Oh, and that's coming out at the end of this month in July. Oh, there's another horror I really want to read. This is called Black Sheep by Rachel Harrison. I recently read Such Sharp Teeth by Rachel Harrison and I really enjoyed it, so I'm curious about this one. I honestly don't even know what it's about. I'm guessing it's about the black sheep of the family, you know, like that saying. I think it has something to do with that. So I'm curious because I really enjoyed the way that she did a horror novel, but also was able to talk about these like personal human issues in the same vein that Grady Hendrix does for me. So I think that's the type of horror I enjoy, like not just being scared for the sake of being scared, but something that talks about the human existence on top of that, if that makes sense. I really enjoyed those types of horror. I think this comes out in September. Okay, I'll say one more and then we're done. I also really want to read Swordcatcher by Cassandra Clare. And hear me out, when City of Bones and the Clockwork series was coming out, or I think I read it after it came out, I absolutely loved her books. But this was a while ago. I have tried to read Chain of Gold. I've had that for a while and I attempted to start that book and I wasn't really into it. I don't know if it's because I kind of just grew out of her. I won't say I grew out of YA because there's still a lot of YA books that I enjoy immensely. So that's not it. I think I grew out of her YA writing style in like the world of like the Shadowhunters, because all of those books are set in the same world. I've heard, I don't know if this is true or not, I've heard that this is a whole new setting and it's an adult novel. So I'm excited to read this and see if I'm into it. I honestly don't even know what this book is about. I just know that it's fantasy and that's all I need to know, honestly. All right, that's it. I'm gonna leave it at that for those 3 books I'm excited about, because I will literally sit here and look through everything to find books that I want to read. You know how that goes. Next up, we have Biggest Disappointment. And this is random, but this is a book that I read. When did I read this? Oh, last month. It's Arctic by Honey Phillips. This is a sci-fi alien romance. I was really hoping I was gonna love this because the premise really appealed to me, and I will say I do enjoy a lot of like alien romance in the same vein of like Ruby Dixon, kind of like a little palate cleanser after reading something that's dark. So I was really excited for this book and I was sort of disappointed. I think the reason I was disappointed was because this was a novella. I think it was only 180 pages. I was hoping for the love and the story to be more fleshed out and it just didn't do it for me. So I was slightly disappointed. And then I will say I was also disappointed by, where is the book? Everybody in My Family Has Killed Someone by Benjamin Stevenson. I was really hoping I was gonna love this. It's a mystery book in sort of whodunit, but the main character, his name is Ernie. He kind of breaks the fourth wall and is talking to you as the reader to show you how this mystery goes, and that he's not one of those authors that's going to try to trick you. He'll be honest with you about everything. And you're sort of like following him along as he tries to solve this murder. Like, he thinks one of the people in his family killed someone. I just was bored the whole entire time except for like the last 30 pages. I think this book is for people that really, really appreciate the mystery genre in terms of like, if you are a heavy Agatha Christie reader, you enjoy that whole blueprint of writing a murder mystery. And I'm just here for the thrill. I think I've found that I'm very much a thriller reader as opposed to the mystery. I'm intrigued by the mystery. Of course, I want to know who killed the person, but I love that sense of what's going to happen next, like who's going to come out next. And this book did not have that. It was very cheeky. Some parts were funny, and I was not very much into it. But I think, let me put this back. I think that has a, like, I think partly that's a me problem. I don't think the book was badly written or anything. I think it's just me, honestly. It's not you, it's me. Biggest surprise. You know what's funny? I did not do this on purpose, but all of these books are here, right on there. Defy the Night by Bridget Kemmerer. I didn't realize I was gonna love this as much as I did. I have read A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Bridget Kemmerer, and then the second book in that series, and the second book was not good, so I stopped reading that. I didn't finish the series. But when this was like maybe last year or the year before, when Barnes and Noble was having a sale, I picked this up because the premise kind of sort of appealed to me. So I picked it up, and then I just never picked it up to read. And I have a bunch of like physical books that I haven't read, so I'm trying to get through them. I'm like, okay, I'm in the mood for a YA fantasy, and I just picked this up and I ate this up. This is such a good fantasy, and I was expecting something lighthearted because it's YA, and it's not. The politics in this book is phenomenal. The book is not really very heavy on the fantasy. I feel like the only fantastical element in this book is the fact that the world that these people live in, the city, is divided into kingdoms. The prince, they live in the middle, and then there's like other kingdoms that live around, and there is a plague going in this world where no one really knows what causes it. They just know that the cure, or the management, I should say, like, it's not a cure for this cough or this disease that people get, is a flower that only grows in one of the kingdoms. And so this kingdom has sort of capitalized on that. Poor people are unable to get the cure, and people are dying. And our main character is an apothecary, and she, along with her friend, help poor people, but they do so knowing that if they get caught, they can be killed by the king and the people that rule the kingdom. And so that's all I'm gonna say about this book, because it's so good. And if you like politics, you should read this book, because there's like a twist in the beginning that I saw coming. I don't know if it's just her writing, but I still enjoyed this a lot. But it's very good. And I definitely want to pick up the next one, and I'm excited for it. So that was very surprising, because I was not expecting to like it as much as I did. And the next question is favorite new author, and I don't have one. I think most of the authors I've read from this year, which I haven't read a lot, as I keep saying, I've read from before. And the other authors that I have not read from before are not new favorites, if that makes sense. So we're skipping that question. The next question is newest fictional crush. And I don't have one. I'm sorry. Newest favorite character, I will say from Fourth Wing, Indara, the little baby dragon, is freaking adorable, and she's my favorite in that whole book. But I'm a sucker for like animals and dragons and stuff in books that are able to communicate with our character. Even if they're not able to, if they have some sort of personality, I'm a sucker for that stuff. Book that made you cry, what is it called? The Confidence of Wildflowers, and that is Michaela Smelter. It's a romance. And I say romance very begrudgingly, because the ending of this book is horrendous. And not because it's bad, but because what happens is terrible. And I cried like a freaking baby for a very long. But I cry easily. But this was terrible. I'm going off on a tangent. This was terrible. If you're curious about this book, it is a romance. It's it's like a age gap romance between neighbors. You know, the majority of the book, you're like following them around, and then something awful happens at the end of this book, and it's a duology. So I did finish because I had to know what was gonna happen, but what happens at the end is awful. But my tangent that I was gonna go off on is that I am a crier, and some things will make me cry even if I feel like it's not necessary to cry. I'll give you an example. I cried when I watched the last Guardians of the Galaxy movie like a baby. If you had seen me cry, you would have thought someone in my family perished, because I could not stop crying, and I was like hiccuping, and my husband looks at me and goes, please stop crying so much, like what is wrong, like are you crying about something else? And I'm like, no, they're just like, this is like the end of an era, and they're not, I'm not gonna spoil, but If you haven't watched Guardians of the Galaxy, the last one, yeah, I cried like a baby, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. I really love those movies. So anyways, back on track and off the tangent. Book that made you happy. I will say most of the time, most books I read make me happy, even if it's a horror book, because I like horror, so it makes me happy. But I get what this question is asking, I think. I forget what it's called. Hold on. I really need to get better about logging my books, because now I'm like having to go to my Kindle Unlimited on Amazon to try and find the books that I've checked out from Kindle Unlimited to find this book, because I can't think of the name. So I found it. It's called it's called Wolf Gone Wild by Juliet Cross. This is a funny, slow burn romance between a wolf and a witch, and they live in this world where all these different paranormal people exist, and they kind of coexist, but they don't really mesh well. But the wolf needs help from the witch because he has been cursed, in the sense that his wolf, like his animal side, is in his head talking constantly and trying to get him to do bad things. But the wolf in his head is like super funny. He's just kind of aggressive and destructive, and the main character, the guy, has to sort of like keep his animal side in check. And it's funny and cute, and I really enjoyed it. Favorite book to movie adaptation you saw this year? And I know this doesn't count, but I'm gonna cheat anyways. I did not read the book yet, but I am so in love, and I freaking cannot wait for the second season of Silo on Apple TV. This is a sci-fi series that I just recently found out is a series of books. I'm waiting a little bit to read the first book because I think the first book follows the show very closely, and I just finished watching the show. So if I tried to read the book now, I'm gonna be like kind of bored, because I'm gonna want to get to the end and see what happens. So I'm gonna wait a little bit, but I am going to read the series because I loved the sci-fi show. It was freaking amazing, and I'm gonna say that because even though I didn't read the book, I think the show is amazing, and I'm excited to read the books and see what happens before the show comes out. The first book is called Wool by Hugh Howey, and the show is called Silo. Okay, favorite video you have done so far this year? I'm not gonna answer this one because I've only filmed like 3 videos this year. Beautiful book you've bought so far this year or received? I don't have one, because the one good thing about not doing a lot of YouTube this year is that I did not buy a lot of books. Most of the things that I did read, I read on Kindle, and I'm gonna try to keep it that way. I'm only trying to buy books that I have already read and enjoyed, so I can keep it in my collection. With that said, I get super excited when I'm talking about books, when I see people talking about new books, and I want to get those books. So we'll see. I'm gonna try to hold myself back and just get the books that I'm unsure about for my library, and if I love them, I'll buy them for my collection. The last question is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? I don't have anything specific, like I'm not trying to set myself up for failure, but I do want to get to my physical TBR. There's a lot of books that I have owned TBR that I want to get to, and then if I don't get to them, I'm not going to keep them. And yeah, so I'm gonna say that. Although I will say those books that I mentioned that are coming out, I do want to read. So those books. I think that's it for this tag. If you guys liked it, please let me know in the comments. And if you have answers for these questions, let me know. Link your videos down below because I want to watch some new channels. And I will see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.